Thanks for listening to the AZ12 podcast. Now joined by every Arizona basketball fan's favorite national personality, Mr. Aaron Torres. There will be no reads today. We already did the reads. This is our second show because we very much like Aaron Torres. Hello, Aaron Torres.
First of all, we have a lot to catch up on. Second of all,
Yes.
don't love the framing here. I look a little thick. I'm still in great shape.
You're looking girthy.
Dude, I sure am. I am looking
Yeah.
girthy. I'm not, but well, I mean, it's a different conversation for another day. Three, I think this is the first time we're supposed to go Friday, and you actually bailed on me. I'm always the one that's like, oh,
Yeah.
Mike, da, da, da. You know what's kind of crazy too? I wasn't gonna tell you. I was actually gonna have to cancel on you on Friday. So when you were like, "Hey, can we move to Thursday?" I was like, "Oh, dude, he was gonna be so mad if I canceled on him again."
Well, that's why we met in the middle and we went on Thursday.
I love it.
Let's
How's
look at
life?
that.
How's the independent life, dude?
I like it a lot. It's very fun. I've been trying to figure out like how to do all this business stuff that I have no actual knowledge of. So I have actually a business for dummies.
Can we talk off air about that, because that is one
course.
thing that I have desperately tried to learn. Fun fact: I actually just pitched an advertiser that was interested in working with me. Think I overshot my shot there because I have not heard back, and they were like eager to get going. So
yeah,
we're all
I'm super excited. It's worked really well. So yeah, let's talk about it afterwards. Yes. All right, Mr. Torres, you're a long-suffering UConn Huskies fan. You know, it's got to be difficult. It's a tough life. Let's talk a little bit though about this season and Arizona. I think everybody kind of left them for dead after that UCLA game. Yeah, I mean, you know, it was hard not to. After that UCLA game, you're 4-5. That was an epic collapse. Well, fast forward, you're now 10-1 in the conference. If you win this game, you're probably going to be about 14-15 in the country, and you're one of the hottest teams in going. What is our favorite national media correspondent seen from Arizona in this last month and a half?
Completely different team, man. Completely different team. Listen, by the way, I got a million questions for you. We'll get to after. Listen, you guys have broken it down. I don't know that I have much to contribute that you and Sheer haven't talked about every day for.
No, we want your contribution. You're more important than us. That's why we bring you on.
Well, I just think listen, first of all, guys are playing with more confidence. Caleb Love is playing like Caleb Love for the most part, and I know he was terrible against Iowa State before he hit the buzzer beater. But I mean, listen, I would ask you. I mean, I feel like all Big 12 first team is absolutely in play here, right? Like,
yeah, for sure.
So
for sure.
And then listen, I think the big one, it was something that my boy Mike Luke was on nice and early. Henry Visar, man. I know you've been tweeting about him for years, and you know, I feel bad because every time you talk about him, it becomes like, are they better without Krivas? And it's like you don't want to root for injuries or anything like that. But listen, I just think they're playing at a much higher level. I think the out of conference kind of woes, one besides the obvious lineup shakeups and things like that. I think it just kind of gave them a thick skin, man. It's just like you look at even the game against BYU last Tuesday. BYU's hitting every single shot, and Demon's doing this. I mean, I watched the game. It was a late start, but I was up watching it, and it was like, you know, it was just a great back and forth game. And then all of a sudden, BYU started missing a shot or two. Arizona will come down and convert, vice versa. So, you know, listen, I go back with Arizona to my preseason analysis that I had with you, which was Arizona has always been a great out-of-conference team and start the year early.
Yeah.
But then they have these weird hiccups in what was obviously an inferior, Pac-12 compared to the Big 12. And so why I bring that up is because I was worried, okay, like you might be good in the out-of-conference, but there's no nights off in the Big 12. And it's obviously, It goes without saying, it's been almost the opposite. Great, struggled in the out-of-conference, but found their footing, and now they're obviously playing incredible basketball.
Yeah, see, that's where I'm at. Yeah, and like again, this might be a little bit of a cop-out, but we need to talk about Torres coming to Tucson here soon because again, we have a little bit of news on that front. But you know, and again, I don't want to make excuses, but it is what it is. Arizona, obviously, in the first 3 years under Tommy Lloyd, was able to get up for those games again, because you're having big games. You're having Maui, you're going to Duke, all of that. There's just something, and a couple people around the team told me this. There's just something it's hard to get up for. And again, it's not an excuse. It just is what it is because their play tailed off. When you're going to Stanford and there's 8 people there, when you're going to Oregon State and there's 3, when you're going to Washington State and there's nobody, if you could go there and, even if you didn't bring your A game, you weren't going to get embarrassed. A guy made a interesting point. He said, if you go to a place like Texas Tech and you don't bring your A game, and we're not talking even Kansas, we're not talking Iowa State, we're talking at Texas Tech, you're going to get embarrassed because you've got 15,000 fans there. Every arena is rocking. You just see it in warmups and you're like, I better bring it. Otherwise, there's going to be some real problems here. It's it's just different from a young person's perspective.
No, there's no doubt. And I think that was something I remember the summer when it all went down, you were like, oh man, I can't wait to go to Texas Tech and BYU. I'll tell you this, man, like I'm actually going out to BYU first time I've ever been there in a couple weeks when they play Kansas. And it's just like, it's an arena that's been on the bucket list, kind of watched how they put together their team. And I was like, been to Tucson, been to Lexington. I was like, I got to try out Provo. By the way, I don't want to switch gears 100%, but first of all,
we're all over the place on here. Switch gears as much as you want.
We got to get to the UConn Arizona stuff. I want to give a quick shout out. By the way, the people that still remember Sean Miller is amazing to me, because the world moves so fast. Like, for example, like I used to be a writer, like that was my job. That was how I got into covering college basketball. And it's like, nobody even knows me for that anymore. So now that we're in year 4 of the Tommy Lloyd era, I'm impressed that people still remember.
That was 2017 as well. We got good memories here in the desert.
Yes. Well, I want to also give a quick shout out really quick. 5 of a Kind Media is in the chat. So I did my live stream, my normal Thursday show at 2 Eastern, 11 Pacific. I logged out about 10 minutes before coming to do this. Kind Media, or whatever the name is, was in my chat asking me Arizona State questions, and then immediately came over here. So I want to give him or her a quick shout out. But they asked me a 2-part, well, really 3-part, 2-part great question. And you're the person to ask about this. And so after bringing this fan in here, I want to do this. He asked me, or she asked me in my chat, who is going to replace Bobby Hurley? And then more importantly, where is Jaden Quaintance going to end up next year? Now, I just want to say, I think Jaden Quaintance will be the best player in the transfer portal if Bobby Hurley gets fired. I've actually been really impressed with him. 16, 17 years old, brings it every night. He's not great offensively, but who is it? 17 years old in the Big 12. But the first part, is this finally the year that Bobby Hurley's done? Go ahead.
Doesn't it have to be? I mean, you and I were messaging, and I saw what you said, and I thought that was embarrassing.
It was.
And to me, and again, I think what's kind of lost in all of this, to be honest with you, you very rarely see an opposing coach single out a player, an opposing player. I think that has been, and I've been beating that harp. Is that a term? Beating that harp? I don't know if that's the right term. That sounds awful anyways. But
beating that drum, I think, is what you're going for.
Yeah, beating the drum. Yes.
I hope that's what you're going for.
Yeah,
you can beat something else, but let's stick with drum for right now.
Yes, exactly, for drum right now. But that to me, forget the headbutt. Obviously wasn't good. The handshake, I've seen stuff like that. I don't know that I've ever seen another coach go out and single out an opposing player like that. I thought that to me was just, and again, I feel like that point was lost with the headbutt and everything else. Torres, I was stunned by that. I still am.
So 2 thoughts on that. So 1, I agree. And 2, because I got this a lot, because I've been a Dan Hurley defender, and it's not just because I went a UConn guy. UConn's winning. Because the thing about Hurley is he'll go after these refs. But 2 things. 1, first of all, Mike, this is not a topic for on air. It's not. These refs get paid an astronomical amount of money. Like I think people would be stunned how much. So I was like, I don't care if he yells at a ref. But 2 things about Dan Hurley. 1 is that if you actually listen to his post games, he's normally, whatever he's mad about during a game, he's much calmer after the game. So even the most recent one where he said, don't walk away from me, I'm the effing best coach in the sport, whatever. It's like after the game, he was like, listen, I respect the refs. They have a hard job to do. But we were frustrated, whatever. But he went out of his way to say, we have great refs and I understand they just have a job to do. And then 2, and I think this is the important point that you just brought up. I'm with you. I have never heard, unless like somebody threw a punch or something, like but I've never heard of another coach call out a player before.
Right.
And so I thought it was really bad. You would have the pulse on what that means for the administration locally, all that stuff. But I mean, when you're calling out, again, you call out another coach, you call out a program. Oh, I don't like the way they operate. But to say I'm not voting for Caleb Love, like that's
right.
Like, I don't want to be over dramatic, but it's pretty gross.
Yeah, it's gross. Now, one thing that I think is different, though, about Danny Hurley as well, besides the fact that he probably is the best coach in college basketball. So, Danny Hurley yes, he goes crazy, but I've never seen it, and you would know this better than me watching it. I don't know that I've ever seen his team, when Bobby Hurley melts down and just loses all control, his team a lot of times melts down and loses all control. While Danny Hurley is going off, I've never gotten the sense that he's lost control of himself. He's going crazy, but I've never gotten that sense, or that his team has lost control because he's lost control.
Well, and it's actually the opposite in a lot of cases. Like, and I say this as a guy who grew up on Jim Calhoun. Calhoun was the same way. Is like he'd go crazy, but it was always a motivational tool.
Right.
You know, late in his career, I forget, it was one of the last 3 or 4 years he was there. I remember they were playing West Virginia, now in the Big 12, on a Monday, big Monday game, and he was mad about whatever, and he purposely went after the refs to get a tech. Got a tech, and his team went on a run, and they ended up winning the game.
Right.
And, like, that's, to me, Dan Hurley. Now, listen, is it perfect? Again, and I said this on my show, like, I didn't love the don't walk away from me, I'm the best effing coach in college basketball. I didn't love that. But when you heard him explain, like you said, you know, using it as a motivational tool, using it as a whatever, and I think that's a great point that I hadn't even really considered, is you never really see Hurley has a meltdown and then his team melts down. Now, I will say, if you want to bash the entire Hurley family, the criticism that I would say about Dan Hurley, I mean, it is indisputable. He cost them a game in Maui. I mean, they were in control of the Memphis game in overtime. He gets a tech. I think they were up one. I think it was like tied. They were up one, whatever. And then by the time they got the ball back, they were down 4 or 5. So he did cost them a game this year, if I'm being totally fair. But I think, to your point, he never loses the team. And usually there's some method to the madness where, to your point, I think Bobby Hurley is just a little bit of a crazy person. So
yeah, and if you're ASU, and again, I don't know if he would take this job or not, but don't you have to just prioritize somebody like Randy Bennett? I mean, Randy Bennett he's a Mason native. He's making $1 million per year. You say you push that up to $3 million, whatever. I don't. That, to me, you've got to move on from Hurley. And I just don't know how you don't. And regarding Jaden Quaintance, I'm going to ask you a question here.
Yeah.
Your guy, John Calipari, I'm still stunned that he didn't make the play as hard as possible to bring Quaintance to Arkansas with him. Because Quaintance was obviously committed to Kentucky. That's a winning basketball player right there. You win games with guys like Jaden Quaintance.
So all I'll say is 3 parts. One, first of all, I agree. And it's funny because when Arkansas was struggling, I thought they just weren't tough enough in the paint. And let me just say, I texted maybe somebody in the Quaintance camp, if you will. I know everybody's got a camp now. Mm-hmm. And I was like, dude, Arkansas is the school that, you know, Jaden is the player that they need right now. And I think they thought Jonas Adu was going to fill that spot. He hasn't. What I will also say is, all I can tell you is, because I covered that recruitment when he entered when he reopened his recruitment pretty closely. I don't know that this is fair, but I think the camp was maybe a little upset that, you know, they didn't get prior notice. I don't think anybody got prior notice. I can tell you, I know for a fact, I saw a Kentucky assistant that week at the Final Four. There was no indication that Cal was even talking to Arkansas. And I will say, like, with Arkansas, and I'll defend, you know, I think every staff deals with this, but I think there's this belief that everybody has unlimited NIL, and it's just not the case. I mean, we could go on and on. And so, listen, we all know that the asks from the camp were pretty significant, and there's nothing wrong with that. Your family, you're allowed this, that, you know, it's the NIL era. But I think even Arkansas was like, listen, we have a budget. Like, our budget might be bigger than virtually everybody else's.
Right.
Some might say it was girthier than others. But I just bring it up to say is, like, I think they got to a point where, like, we really want you, but, like, even we have a budget that we can't exceed. And I know what the reports are out of Tempe as far as how much he was promised and this and that. So I just think that it got to a point where they said, you know what, we can get probably an equal player for less. Now, did they get an equal player? I don't know. Quaintance is really good, man. And I just, I give him credit because all these freshmen, I think, you hit a wall, but that kid plays hard every single freaking night. I give him a lot of credit for that.
All right, let's talk about, I wanted to ask you this too. You were a big Keyshawn Johnson guy. Got to give you a lot of credit. You were way ahead of the curve on that one. I think Tommy Lloyd's got to get a lot of credit for his big man development here. When you look at it, Christian Coloco, when he took over that first year, was kind of a bit player. Turns into an All-American type, playing on the Lakers now. Julius Tabellas was obviously good. Umar Ballo was the only time that Umar Ballo's really been in shape in his life was when he was here at Arizona, and he's dropping 16 and 9. He certainly hasn't been what Indiana folks thought they were going to get. Keyshawn Johnson. To me, that is one of the best recruiting tools that I can if I'm Tommy Lloyd, because, yeah, sure, Keyshawn Johnson played in a national title game. I get it. But he was also a 5.5 rebound guy. He wasn't on NBA radars. He might have been on Aaron Torres' NBA radar. But he comes here. Tommy Lloyd allows him to become a 3-and-D type guy, and he's going to play probably a long time in the NBA, or the MNBA, as we joke about.
Ooh, I've heard that before. Yes.
And you look this year, Henry Vasar, obviously, he's done a pretty nice job of developing big men.
Yeah, I think I saw you or Sheer or somebody tweet about it. I hadn't really thought about it until you guys brought it up, but I think it's totally fair. Right. And I think it is interesting. One, all those guys are a little bit different, but two, just the fact that they all kind of thrive. I just think it's kind of interesting. They all thrive in different ways. Henry Visar is obviously a different player than Keyshawn Johnson. Certainly different than Ballo. So, it was something I hadn't really considered, but I think it's really good. I also liked your tweet, by the way, about speaking of our buddy Sean Miller, your tweet about, oh, man, yeah, well, listen, I love this team, but let's be honest about Sean Miller's players here. I got a kick out of that as well.
Every now and then I make myself laugh. That was one of the times when I was actually giggling when I sent that out. That made me laugh, so I will.
I'm sorry I don't have more on the big men. I think it's been a good coaching job. And I think the other thing too, really quick, I'll say too, is, portal evaluations, I think have been, I know there's a guy maybe on this year's roster that you're not thrilled with, but yes. I'll say this. I think ADO, to your point that I see you make all the time, has found his spot on this team. Listen, let's be honest here. They took a chance on Caleb Love when a lot of other people weren't going to take a chance on him either. I know he had committed to Michigan, all that. But I promise you, there wasn't a huge line for Caleb Love, as crazy as it sounds. So I think you had that with Keyshawn Johnson, et cetera. I think they've done a very good job. So.
Yeah, Jaden Bradley in there, who's kind of been a steady jack. Now, you were a big fan. You and I were both big fans of KJ Lewis, and we did not understand why he wasn't rated higher. Listen, he's not your traditional NBA shooting guard. I get that. But he's super athletic. He plays hard. When he gets downhill, he's a winning basketball player. People like Sheer messed it up. He's better than a top 100 prospect. Boom.
He is. It's crazy how this sport works. Is just guys' comfort levels on different things with different whatever. And one, I just give him credit for the willingness to go back to the bench, for a poor, when the team was struggling, and he wasn't afraid to say, hey, maybe this is the best role for me going forward. So I give him credit for that. The other thing too, I just think, I'll say this: you can have a guy that is NBA caliber that doesn't necessarily develop on the trajectory that everybody thinks. And so I'll put myself in the group that thought, oh, breakout star nationally, he's going to be great. And it took him a little while. Doesn't mean that the size, skill, intangibles aren't there. But I think the counter to that is we also just, it maybe wasn't his time. And so with KJ, I still think he's going to play in the NBA. Like you said, he's not prototypical in certain areas. Or he hasn't developed the way that we thought, but I don't have a long-term, I'm not down on KJ Lewis. I just think that, and by the way, it was all of us. By the way, it was the coaching staff, right? Because it was this is our starting, you want to call him a 3 with Bradley and Love in the starting lineup. He's our starting 3, but I just think it was one of those where I think we all had, maybe we just rushed the process a little bit. And, but I think he's still really good. I still think he's an NBA player. It just might be a year or two later than we anticipated.
Okay, everybody hit the like button, by the way. Julie, very good job. I appreciate that. Now,
I got to remember to have people hit the like button. That's a big one.
Yeah, for sure. I'm terrible at that. Julie, you're much smarter than me. Thank you very much. Dennis Walsh, we need to address the elephant in the room. Where is the compound bunker? We very much like that on the show. Your background. When you're coming at us from Big Bear Lake, when you got the piano in the background, like the cello rested up against it. Where is that, Mr. Torres?
Well, I have been, I've been allowed to return to my home. You have to remember the bunker came about because of the vitriol from Purdue fans last year, because I had the audacity to question how could one player draw 15 to 20 fouls on one end and commit 0 to 1 on the other end. I thought it was a reasonable question to ask. Purdue fans would feel otherwise. I still get very colorful messages from Purdue fans about how maybe my sexual preference and my ball knowing knowledge and all of that. So thankfully, the good news is that I've been able to return to my home. We're actually, not TMI, but we just moved to a new place. So I'm actually going to build a little studio. I'm going to have a fancy little setup
nice.
like you behind there. So it's good.
Nice.
By the way, you know who's on my ass right now? I could say ass on this show, right?
Yeah, of course.
You know who's on my ass right now? You'll laugh when you hear this.
Who?
Of every fan base, Purdue fan, they're always a little. You know who's mad at me right now? UConn fans, and let me explain why. It's very strange. They're mad at me because I'll read you a tweet that I sent out the other day, and oh my goodness, are these people mad? Connecticut people, I love them, but they're very angry at times. So this is what I tweeted out on Tuesday night, right before Arizona went to BYU and won. I said, Auburn literally destroys very good NCAA tournament caliber teams like they're playing D2 schools. I'm telling you, enjoy this team. Squads like them don't come around very often. UConn fans have decided that means that I'm saying that Auburn is better than last year's 37-3 national championship UConn team. That is not what I said. Never what I said. And to take it a step further, all I said was squads like this don't come around very often. By the way, my favorite one is, bro, we get 2 or 3 teams like this every year. Auburn literally is going to probably go into Selection Sunday with the best resume ever.
Yes.
They have 13 quad 1 wins right now. The next closest is 8. And they have probably about 10 more if you include the conference tournament quad 1 opportunities. I'm not saying they're going to win the national championship. I'm not saying they're going to go to a Final Four or like in 97 when a young Mike Luke was cheering his little heart out in Indianapolis. What I am saying is, 1, they're incredible, 1. But 2, they're on a trajectory to be one of the historically great teams. Doesn't mean that UConn last year wasn't. Right. So the only reason I bring it up has nothing to do with Arizona. But I might have to head back to that bunker because now it's a little friendly fire. Now I got UConn fans. Oh, we would have beaten them by 20. Well, it doesn't really matter because you're not playing them and they're not playing you. Can I ask you? Can Auburn?
You got to go back into the You got to go back into the bunker. I'm telling you, we like the bunker.
Can an Auburn team be great if UConn was also great last year? Is that allowed?
No. It can't happen.
The other thing too is I said teams like this don't come around very often. That means like over the span of 10, 20, 30 years.
Yes.
So we could have 5 great teams over a 20-year period. One of them just happened to come last year. So anyway, the Purdue fans are a little moved. Sorry, I don't get it.
I don't get it. Oh, A.K. Thompson, besides making fun of my caller, we are professional on this show, my friend. We are professional. It's like a loose V-neck. Take it like this. Watch this. Now it's a V. I just turned it into a V-neck. Take that, EK. Hot take. Auburn doesn't get out of the round of 32. Well, that is a very hot take. That is the hottest of takes. I will remember this.
Yes.
We will definitely remember
They've
this.
literally destroyed Purdue, beat Houston, Iowa, Missouri. I mean, they've beaten like 8 teams in the top 25 right now. But yeah, anyway, this isn't an Auburn show. This isn't a Auburn 12 podcast.
Are you surprised? What's the best team in the Big 12? And you don't have to suck up to us, obviously. What's the best team in the Big 12?
I think it's probably Houston. But I will say, I will say, like, they still, if you're able to get them into a little bit of a more high-scoring game, they can be beaten. And that was always going to be the issue with this team. And Texas Tech put up 80-plus last week, and Texas Tech won. Now, I know that was overtime, so it was a little bit different. Probably Houston. Listen, I will say this, and I'm not saying it. I'm not sucking up. I think there's an argument that by March, certainly the team with the most upside is Arizona. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And I think there's an argument that they could be the best by March. Are you going to the Big 12 tournament this year, by the way?
Probably. I got to figure this out because here's the deal, though. They're also the first round games. This is where it's very exciting. I'm giving you a little bit of a heads up, too. Guess where the first round games most likely are for Arizona?
Oh, in the tournament? I don't know. Where would they be?
SRS, baby. Smelly, rainy Seattle.
Woo!
Yeah, I don't know what to do with myself there. I will get there. If that is the case, I will get there early. I will get there on like Monday. We will be vlogging, talking
Dude,
about the smells, the stench,
I was gonna
everything
say,
permeating out from there. It's going to be good.
5 smelliest areas of Seattle sounds like a very
Oh,
I feel like
it's
that
like
would hit the YouTube algorithm really hard.
it's like a novel. I mean, seriously, it's like a Dickens novel, the 5 rainiest, smelliest areas of Seattle. I mean, it'll be, but
Never
still
been to
trying to
Seattle.
figure that one out. Probably going to be up there though at Big 12 as well. We'll get that figured out.
Can we one other thing? I know I'm cutting you off every 30 seconds.
No, you should. My points suck. Your points are good. Go ahead.
Can you get your boy Yormark to get the Big 12 tournament in Vegas? Is that going to happen soon?
You know, I don't think so. It stinks that it's not. But I really do wish they could do that. That would be very, very nice. Because Vegas, like I said, I love the Big 12, but I've been to Kansas City many times, so I'm not somebody that can. I like Kansas City. It's still better than Vegas is literally the perfect spot to have a conference tournament.
Well,
it is.
And what I would say to that is a couple things. One, first of all, it just is. 2, you and I obviously hung out with Sheer and Ben White and everybody last year in Vegas. I'm not going back this year because there's no kind of tentpole tournament. You could argue the Pac-12 is kind of whatever, but the Pac-12 was still a pseudo event, especially for Arizona fans.
Right.
But I think it's actually a great spot because the thing with a conference tournament is if you can plan for a year to be there,
right,
it's an easy place to get to. You know, like I remember talking to Arizona fans where it was like when it was at the Staples Center, we never wanted to go, but we had a full year to plan for Vegas. And I remember an Arizona fan telling me 2-3 years ago, like basically we leave the Pac-12 tournament and then we start planning for next year. And so as somebody, by the way, I'll also add this, who was at the Kansas Duke game in Vegas this year. Kansas showed out. Those people from Kansas love Vegas. And if you give them a year to plan, or Iowa State fans, I think it could be like the premier conference tournament, but you know, I don't have a direct line of Brett Yormark like you do. So
yeah, Bretty Y, as I call him. Hey, let me ask you this. Are you surprised that Kansas kind of stinks this year?
So I
mean, relatively speaking, obviously.
So I was going to tweet this, but I didn't because there's a reason why. So you know how like college football playoff, it's like, oh, the SEC just sucks because they can't pay players anymore. Right. And it's like, kind of think that's kind of what's going on with Bill Self. Like, I'm just going to say it. I didn't tweet it because
interesting. I like it. Interesting. Yeah. Keep going.
I was going to say that, but then people would be like, you defend Calipari. It's like, yeah, but Bill Self was taking care of guys as well. And it is interesting.
Yes.
Year one, you know, NIL happens. And the other reason I wanted to put it out there was because they won the title in 2022. But we all know that first year of NIL, nobody really knew what was going on. And it's really been the last 2 years that it's like, oh, we have to have a collective and we have to have this much going in the portal and this and that. And I don't know why, but it does feel like there is a disconnect. You know, I mean, he even, what was it, after they blew that 20-point lead against Baylor or whatever? I mean, he had some wild comments. And, you know, last year it was just, you know, we don't have the right players. And I think in his defense, there was some stuff that happened that, you know, was out of his control. He had a player that he had to throw off the team, etc. But, you know, he said it after they lost in the tournament. He's like, we started preparing for next year a month ago. And so that's what we call tampering season, baby. And so, like, I don't know what else there is to say. You know, I was trying to really diagnose it. Is like, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but is it a Hunter Dickinson thing? Is, you know, he has kind of some weird vibes. You know, Store hasn't really popped. And
Store's been, honestly, I think Store is the one that they needed to be like McCullough. Again, they needed Store to step in. And I didn't think that Store would necessarily be McCullough, but I thought he would be 14, 15 per game. I mean, he plays like 8 minutes a game. Like,
that's insane.
Yeah, I mean, and usually Self has a really interesting combination of like a one and done or a two and done, sprinkled with your Frank Masons, your Devontae Grahams, your guys like that are your 4-year under the radar guys. I look at this year's team, DeJuan Harris, meh, not bad. I mean, solid. But KJ Adams, kind of the same thing. Neither one can score. You know what it is? they got a bunch of guys on the team that don't scare me from a scoring perspective.
Yeah.
DeJuan Harris, good floor general, cool. Even Hunter Dickinson against length, probably going to struggle. KJ Adams can't really score. Zeke Mayo's solid, not bad, but they needed that score, that guy. They don't really have it. That to me is one of their biggest issues this year.
Yeah, it was supposed to be AJ Storr. And as a guy who does portal stuff all April and May and late March, is that I'm not going to hide from it. I had him as the number one player in the portal last offseason. I mean, he averaged 15 a game in the Big Ten, and you can make fun of the Big Ten and also acknowledge.
Yeah, but he was still good. You could also tell by watching him.
Yes, exactly. And so, yeah, it's just one of those weird things. As I think we all have opinions on how things are going to go. We get some right, we get some wrong. But yeah, I did not see a scenario where Bill Self for 2 straight years has kind of just looked like a kind of whatever, the team's been whatever. I mean, because, you can't even say like, well, the Big 12, it's like, yeah, the Big 12 has always been good. It's not like,
right.
Like Calipari, I think is a great example. I know you hate Calipari, that's fine. But it's like part of the reason why his teams don't look so good is because for the first half of the Kentucky era, he was in a 3-bid league or a 4-bid league. Now he's in like a 9-bid league. And so with Bill Self, you can't say, oh, the Big 12 has just gotten better. They've gotten new teams, Houston, BYU, Arizona, whoever else you think is good. But he was dominating that league even when it was already really good. So I just think it's an interesting kind of setup there.
Now, David Rose and Torres, who should be the Big 12 coach of the year to this point? It's either Tommy or McCaslin, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. And I'm not saying it just because I'm on air with you. I would probably give it to Tommy because it's kind of one of those like the NFL MVP, like, should we wait until the end of the playoffs to hand it out? And so it's like, you can't really give Tommy too much credit for turning the thing around because they've been great in Big 12 play. Right. And you can't, the Big 12 coach of the year has nothing to do with the fact that they were 4-5 at one point. Right. So I probably would give it to him. I'll say this is that, and I know it leads into this weekend, but like Texas Tech is really good and nobody has any idea. Like I'll admit it. I was watching the game Tuesday night when they're beating Baylor. I'm like, wait, they're 18-4. Right. They're 18-4 and they beat the 2 best teams ahead of them in the standings. It's just, he probably deserves it though. I would say he or Tommy. I think I would personally give it to Tommy because of the slow start. But again, I don't think you can give a coach credit for turning things around in conference play when it was the out of conference that did them, harm. So,
all right, we got a super snap, $1.99. Can Tommy win in Cameron and Fog Allen from Edgar Ortiz? That's going to be, I think Arizona can definitely beat Kansas. Senior Day is going to be difficult. That's that's the last game of the season, but I don't put it past Arizona.
What are we doing here? Senior Day at Kansas and then the Big 12 tournament? Just go for like 5 days. Kansas City is 20 minutes from Lawrence.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. That is a
Just
really
go
good
for
point.
like 5 days.
Hey, what do you think about the unorthodox choice of Tad Boyle for Coach of the Year in the conference at 0-11 at this point? Do they win a game in conference?
0-11. What is the bigger question? Do they win a game? I mean, I will say he's helping prop up resumes across the Big 12, so maybe that should be considered.
You should see. You're looking at it that way. Now, one guy that I want to give myself some credit for on the national scene that I believe this man, and I've said this for probably 15 years. I believe that Rick Pitino is as good a basketball coach as has ever walked the college basketball sideline. Now, he's got 2 titles. I get that. There's other guys that have 5, 6, whatever the case may be. All things being equal, if you tell me that 2 coaches are getting the same roster, I am going to take Rick Pitino over any coach that I have ever seen. I look at St. John's now. It's a fairly talented team, but like you and I were talking about, it's not a top 15 talented team. But you watch them, that's not a team that I'm going to want to play come March. I'll put it to you like that.
So I had this thought watching them against Marquette the other night. By the way, I don't know if you know they play at UConn Friday night. It's the best game of the weekend.
I thought that was tonight. Oh, yeah, that's Friday. Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
UConn Tennessee women's game tonight. I don't know if that's what you were thinking of. I know how much you love the.
Oh, yeah. I women's basketball, I just can't get enough of. It's so much that I don't even watch it.
Yes, so you can't decide which game to watch, so you just decide not to watch it at all. I get it. It's decision. By the way, I'm not even going to watch the UConn women's game. Don't tell my UConn people.
Right.
Okay, what was the questioning? Oh, Pitino. So I had this thought. I basically had I went into the brain of Mike Luke. It got weird there for a second, but I was watching them against Marquette. And I was like, I really think there's an argument he is the best coach in the history of the sport of basketball. Because listen, I know there's this thing of like, oh, it's the NIL portal era and you can flip a roster really quick. It's like, it's one thing, even at a place like Louisville, which had struggled, but everybody kind of knows the Louisville brand is strong, this and that. It's one thing to flip it overnight at Louisville or Kentucky. I know is strong. Kentucky's
got to a Final Four at Providence too. You got to remember that.
Well, St. John's was dead, dude. Yeah. St. John's was dead. And it's crazy because, you know, I was kind of one of the first people nationally, because it's easy to forget now. Like, that was not this was decided in January thing. They wanted to extend Mike Anderson, not extend, but they weren't planning on firing him. And Pitino had just been cleared by the NCAA. And it was like, do we really want all the baggage? And it's like, bro, if this guy is in your city, and I don't know how many people know much about Rick Pitino, but he's in his 70s. And I know for a fact, there's only two places in the world he wants to live. He either wants to coach, either wants to live in New York City or Miami, Florida, where he has a house. He doesn't want to go to, you know, that winter, it was like, oh, Georgetown's going to, Rick Pitino doesn't want to go to DC. By the way, ironic because of the game this weekend. I think Texas Tech was like, can we interest you in Lubbock? And he was like, no, you can't interest me in Lubbock. Sorry to all the Texas Tech fans that have made their way to the chat. So I just bring it up. He was in your city. And what stands out to me is exactly what you just said. I don't care if it's the NIL portal era. He took a dead program that no one, even in the city, no one cared about.
Right.
And in 18 months, by the way, last year, go back and look it up. You know what UConn's toughest game was in March? Wasn't Zach Edey and Purdue in the national championship game. It was St. John's in the Big East tournament. They were one of the 68 best teams by the end of last year. They are, in my opinion, a top 12, top 15 team right now. They have very obvious flaws, but they defend so well. They rebound so well. I had the same thought as you. I was like, you can make an argument he is the greatest coach, because that program was so dead. Even Tommy Lloyd taking over Arizona, no disrespect, it's not the same. Dan Hurley taking over UConn, it's not the same. Go ahead.
Right. No, you're right. Oh, we got a $4.99 super snap. Andy Bryant, hope you're feeling better, by the way. Chipping in for the March travel fund. $4.99. Very much appreciate it. I'm getting beat up in here by people saying, Mike, oh, that's another term that the Gen Zers always use, glaze. I don't understand. They're like, Mike, you're glazing Pitino too much. No, I just think Pitino's awesome, and I find him an intriguing person. That's all. Do you know that I met Rick Pitino one time? It was very interesting. He was this was when he was at he's at Kentucky. It was in 1997, and all he did was talk about how great Lute Olson was, and there was nobody else around. So again, Rick Pitino likes Lute Olson. Everybody, be nice to him. Yes,
there's a rumor that Rick Pitino may back the A. Is there confirmation on that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we just got it.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think that's where. Yeah, I was on a recruiting trip at that point. I mean, yeah, let's be honest here, Dennis Walsh. Yeah, I know that. Let's hear now. Let's talk a little bit then about where Arizona is then. Here's where I'm at. I go back to this is that Tommy Lloyd's won a lot of regular season games. I get all of that. Yeah, Torres is the GOAT. Is that a goat or is that a beaver? What is that?
Two totally different things.
Yeah, it's a totally different thing. Let's put this up. TJ Van Martyr. Let's see what this is. What is this? That is a goat. That is a goat. I was going to say, yeah, better than a beaver. But yes, $4.99. Torres is the GOAT. Yes, he is. We own rights to Aaron Torres as our national guy.
By the way, I know I have like a largely, SEC Big East audience. I don't have a ton of like Iowa State fans that live and die by what I say. Let's get you on my show next week, dude. I always enjoy talking to you. And it's kind of that time of year where it's like, I was telling my producer that today, it's like, it's kind of the time of year where you kind of know everything there is to know about teams. And even like, there's no new take on Auburn or whoever, Iowa State, Kansas. Let's get you on. We'll do a little Big 12 talk. Bring some of your audience over to me, and we'll
we love Torres. Yes, we will bring him over. Yes, we will bring him over. Yeah, anytime. Just let me know. Also but Arizona, here's where I'm at though. I'm thinking that Torres' hairline much better than Rothstein's hairline. Yes, I agree with that one. Yes, yeah.
No, I'll stay out of that one.
Yeah, well, I'll say something. The Rothstein, I think I'm blocked by Rothstein somehow. And I don't know why. I don't think that I've ever tweeted at him.
You know who's like that for me? Pat McAfee blocked me. I'm like, well, what? I think like the first month he was on game day, I may have sent out a semi-critical tweet. It's like, you care enough about what Torres has to say when you have like one of the best jobs in media. You get to travel to every big game in college football, and you're worried about what this schmuck on Twitter has to say. So
right. Oh yeah, but the Rothstein's hairline though, that hair is fake though. That's why it doesn't look. It's weird. Dion blocked me. Dion Sanders.
That's not surprising me.
Yeah.
Has Brent Brennan blocked you yet, or what?
No,
man?
Brent Brennan likes me now. The whole staff likes me. They bring they give us every player, every coach we want because they're now listening. They're now listening to what we told them.
I will say I'm not generally a proponent of cyberbullying. As somebody who's been on the other side of it, from Purdue fans, now UConn fans, that was the most successful cyberbullying campaign that I've ever seen in the history of cyberbullying.
Well, you know what's funny about it too, and this is I don't think that they would mind this, but I think they thought that, and I respect that because they're all good people. I think they thought that I was going to go away, and that the people that I guess are unfortunate enough to follow me, I appreciate you all, that this would that base would go away. And then finally one person told them, they're like, yeah, these people are pretty passionate, they're pretty loyal, you might want to just deal with the guy.
This was the actual coaching staff, not the administration, right?
Yeah. So I got to give them a lot of credit for that. But yeah, well, it wasn't me, it was you guys. So appreciate you all.
I actually sent a mean email. I'm not gonna lie. I was either part of the problem or part of the solution, depending on how you look at it.
Oh, so. You got to look at it though. Well, yeah, Mike Luke is the AZ football GM now. That's how we roll around here, Dick Wilson, baby. Okay. What I like about this team, and I looked really, really stupid. Oh, Mike is like a herpy, goes away and keeps coming back. Well, yeah. I think that's a comp. Well, no, I don't know. Well, either way. All right. I said this before the season, and I look like a real dummy a month in. I'm more dumber than normal. I said what I like about this Tommy Lloyd team, and I've always said this about Tommy, is that Tommy is not a huge. This will sound wrong, but Tommy isn't a huge discipline guy. Like when Sean Miller was here, you didn't cross Sean Miller. If you were out partying late at night, guess what? You're probably not playing the next day. Tommy's just not built like that. Tommy is definitely more of a kind of a, I think he's really good. I'm happy that he's here, but he's more of a chummy type dude. So I believe that you have to have a different kind of player with that. I think you've got to have players that are naturally tougher, that will sometimes self-police themselves. They didn't have that last year. What I liked about this year's team is, and I put this out there, no soft weenies. In that you have Jaden Bradley, not a soft weenie. Caleb Love, not a soft weenie. KJ Lewis. I can keep going on and on. There weren't guys that you're like, man, this point guard, I don't even know where his mind is at this point. I like that because there's a toughness factor to it where even in the second half of games last year when they would kind of when they would fold or when they would shrivel up, get it? They would end up, they're not doing that now. And I think that BYU game was a perfect example.
Great example, yeah.
BYU's a solid team and you're in a very high impact environment, and Arizona just kind of took the wind out of their sails. I don't think the last year's team would have done that, to be honest with you.
I agree. And I thought, one, I just agree with the sentiment. Two, I thought the BYU game was the metaphor for it because, listen, no disrespect intended, but it's one thing to go to Cincinnati and win. It's one thing to go to Oklahoma State and win.
Right.
BYU, I think, is going to be in the tournament, and they got older dudes. They got lottery type talents. They're still trying to figure it out. They're not a perfect team, but that's just the kind of game in league play where you win if you're at home. And it's also the kind of game in league play that you win if you're home. What was I going to say? It's kind of the game you win at home when you start the way that they did, right? They have the momentum. I don't know that they ever really had a big lead, but Arizona was kind of going shot for shot with them, and eventually the home crowd takes over, this and that. So to win that game, and by the way, this was another thing. Actually, it was a Purdue fan that got on me because I said something about that's a great win for Arizona, and it was literally a Purdue fan. It was like, wow, great win. Whoa, okay, Torres, way to use.
Is that how he sounds? Do it again. One more time. I want to hear it again.
Torres, why you glaze everybody but Purdue? And I'm like, dude, shut up. But anyway, so the point I'm trying to make, I think, and I'll throw the tweet into the chat here, is like, that game to me was a metaphor, is that this team is different, that is a game that, respectfully, you probably shouldn't go on the road and win. just because I just think it's a really, really tough place to play, and they were playing well. It's one thing if, and I don't want to make it sound negative, like, but you catch a team on the right night, they're not playing well, or the team's just not simply good enough. That team was playing really well at a really high level, and you were able to go in and get the victory. So I give them a ton of credit. And I thought that game was probably the best metaphor yet for that was the best metaphor yet for what the season is coming. By the way, I just threw the tweet for people who think that Purdue fans don't care about Torres. I had a guy tweeting.
Oh, they do care about Torres.
February 6th, about a tweet from 3 days ago that had nothing to do with Purdue. So shout out to all the Purdue fans out there that
I want to talk about another weak fan base. Illinois fans. I've very much enjoyed trolling Illinois fans. E.K. Thompson, can we talk about? Did you see that tweet about Illinois players that they get super buff when they go there and then they forget how to shoot? Hey, Stat Freak, if you could put that in the comments so that Torres could see that, that'd be great. Illinois, I got to give you a lot of credit on this one, though. You reversed their fortunes, and I very much thank you for this. Torres tweets at me, and he goes, he says, if you want to watch it, I know you don't like Big Ten basketball, but if you want to watch a girthy team, watch Illinois. They haven't been the same since. Torres broke Illinois. We very much appreciate that.
I mean, Arizona breaks everybody else, so it's like, they're not on the schedule. So now let me ask you, do you not like them? I know there's history between the two schools, maybe a game,
No, I don't really care about that. I don't like them because their fans all off season kept messaging me or kept tweeting at me, and I'm talking hundreds of tweets about Kylan Boswell. Wait until you see what he got. He's home now.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, he's home now. There's a guy on there that was nonstop about it, and then he goes. And then he goes, he said they're at a real program now. Arizona was a toxic environment, all of this stuff. And I'm not the person, as I always tell people, I'm a fan with a microphone. I'm not traditional media. So I have no problem getting in the weeds with these putzes. And guess what? They have gone away now. Boswell is shooting 23% from three-point range. He's shooting 37% from the field. He was benched, and now they're nowhere to be found. You know where to find me, you turds. But I'm just having fun with you guys. But it's an odd fan base that I didn't know existed. And so now I'm having fun lowering the hammer on them as they continue to struggle. Although I do like the one guy on the team, Jack Alonius or whatever his name is. That guy's good. He's really good. But
dude, that's one where because I don't know if I am part of the media or not. I mean,
you're part of the media. Yeah, you're respected. You're part of the media for sure.
Depends on who you ask. But no, the thing about the NBA and NBA draft media, they're like, oh, Cooper Flag, oh, Dylan Harper, tell me more, talk dirty to me, and I'm unhinged on your show. You bring that out of me, but
it's good.
And I said right away, I was like, Yakashona should be a top 5 pick ish, and now it's like the cool trendy thing to say. So yeah, he's a really good player. I didn't love the roster construction, but I will say about middle of the year, I was like, they're actually really. I mean, listen, they beat Oregon by 50 points at Oregon, so
right.
So I think that's part of it, but they are struggling right now, and I don't know exactly what's going on. Big Ten, typical Big Ten.
I've had one person. Oh, that's very good. Thank you. I've had I've had multiple people in here now. We don't have any reads this show because we did the reads earlier, but one of our sponsors or partners, Green Valley Decorative Rock. Hey, Torres, want to hear me my Sean Connery impression?
Yeah, let's do it.
Welcome to the Rock. Welcome to Rock. Striker not stirred.
When
got rocks in my mouth.
When you sign these advertising deals, do all of your sponsors and advertisers know what they're getting into?
Yeah, no, you know what's wild about it? Why I've been able to sell this, and it's been a lot easier than I've thought, is that they like it. I can't tell you. We have a national. Our studio is hopefully going to be sponsored here very shortly. And one of the by a national entity, and he said that you have a way of bringing it's not traditional, but you have a way of bringing them to life to where people remember them, as opposed to just the stodgy, oh, well, guess what? I was at Home Depot, and guess what they have at Home Depot? They have hammers. I looked in the hammer section and I found one for $3.99. I got a hammer. Like, no, you got to do things differently in this day and age. People need to remember this. Like, I get a lot of people that tell me, dude, Mike, all of your takes in sports suck, but your ad reads are awesome. You just got to be you got to be non-traditional.
No,
Mike, you have a natural instinct for marketing. You can't teach that. Yeah. So it just is what it is. What it is. You got to be yourself.
I will tell you, one of our advertisers is kind of a health food company, and they're great at what they do. They make actually a great product. But
yeah, throw them out there. Who are they? Let's talk about them.
It's called Cauli Puffs, Caulipuffs. Basically, they're like Cheetos, but healthy, like healthy ingredients, great company, family-owned company, all that. But the way I've been promoting them, caulipuffs.com, or on Amazon, by the way, if you're interested. But the way I've been promoting them is I'm like, listen, you want to be healthy? It's 2025. I was like, some of you believe in dry January. I don't. And that basically took off.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm not
Torres,
in on that.
Like, Torres, you drunk right now or what, buddy? I'm like, dude, I don't know. Dry January is not something, we all have core principles in life. John Wooden has the pyramid of success. One of the things on my pyramid is I'm not going to sober up for January. Forget that. I can eat a little, I can tone it down a little bit, but I'm not going to whatever.
No, I like drinking. Yeah, exactly. No, but the cauliflower puffs. All I would be,
they're good. They're actually
this would be off the top of this is just off the top of my head. Now, I had some cauliflower. Like, a lot of people think about cauliflower meat, or like with that vegan stuff that it tastes like meat. I had one of those the other day. But guess what? You know what I'm talking about? Like the vegan
Beyond
cauliflower that tastes like chicken or whatever. It's like a cauliflower burger.
Sure. Beyond Burger, right?
Yeah. It's something like, I would be like, you know what? Guess what? You can get that kind of taste with more protein involved too. Cauliflower, baby. Get the Cauli Puff player of the week. Something like that. I would just go with that.
I am happy to say, and the company is very happy that we've gotten some comments that, that they've been purchased via Amazon or the website.
Good. You deserve it. Yeah. It's Aaron Torres. Yes, we like that. I want to see Mike get wasted on a post-game show one time.
Have you ever? I mean, because, it's at night.
No, when I was at the radio one time, I did. This is back when I was a professional. There were a couple times that probably, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have been on the air, but guess what? Doesn't matter. But I've been told by everybody I've ever drank with that I'm a very fun person to drink with. So,
well, guess who's drank with you one time at the Pac-12 tournament? Rest in peace.
And I came in with, hey, tell them the outfit that I came in on.
I just remember sweatpants. Was it a Biggie t-shirt? A Tupac t-shirt?
Yeah, Tupac and Biggie. It was a Tupac and Snoop t-shirt with sweatpants. And then Torres is like, Mike, are you wearing sweatpants? And I said, yes, I'm wearing sweatpants. Why wouldn't I be wearing sweatpants? But, No.
I asked, by the way, somebody asked my drink of choice. It is Tito's and soda, squeeze in a few lemons. Nice. I bring that up because, and I asked you if you drink on air because I don't want to, now I just sound like an alcoholic, but like 2 nights ago, I was watching that Kentucky game where they just got annihilated by Ole Miss. Right. And I was like, this is so bad. And that fan base is going to be so angry. I was like, I should go live right now. And I ended up going live, but I was a couple more Tito's and sodas deep in than I probably should have been when I went live. But that's why I asked, how you are. Now, listen, let's be clear. My midday shows, no. My Fox Sports Radio show every Saturday night. I have not drank on a Saturday in probably 5 years since I started at Fox Sports Radio. So I'm not I'm what they call a social drinker or something like that. So, but that was how I was promoting this health food company is, listen, it's dry January. Nobody believes in that crap, but you know what you need to believe in? These freaking Cauli Puffs.
Well, look at those traps that Torres has got. His neck is disappearing. It's probably from those Cauli Puffs.
It's from, I've been sitting in an upright position for about 2 hours because I did about an hour and a half show. And now I'm here. So, and I was just leaning forward. So I don't know if I was looking all girthy and swole and, Umar Balo-esque or Jacob Manu-esque, but that wasn't really the goal. So.
Yeah. All right, Torres. Very much appreciate digging the shirt, by the way. I would assume he's not talking about me. I think he's talking about Aaron Torres.
It's got an Arizona theme. It was a 2024 Final Four t-shirt. So.
When is Mike Woodson getting fired? Is he getting fired today? You know that kind of stuff.
I hinted at this on my show. There is a very strong rumor circulating around that fan base that after the game, they play Michigan on Saturday or Sunday, and that after the game, he is going to announce his retirement. So,
Is that a good job?
So, two things. I actually do think it's a good job. First of all, I'll say this, and it has an Arizona tie a little bit. Like, we can make fun of the Mike Woodson hire because it was freaking terrible. But what I will also say, the hiring cycle before, when they hired Archie Miller, like, it's easy to make fun of that hire now.
I thought it was a great hire.
He was the hot mid-major coach that everybody wanted. So
yeah.
I think it is. The other thing I will say, they very clearly invested a lot of capital into this roster. And listen, it's the cliche thing to say, but coaches now are making decisions on, am I going to have the financial support? And I understand that the schools are going to start paying and people think the collectives are going away. I don't believe that at all. You need money. And the one thing about Indiana, it's one of those Big Ten schools. They got 1 million boosters. I mean, we heard reports that they raised $20 million for football this year, for football.
Right.
So I just bring it up because I think it will be an attractive job because the NIL support is there. The fan base is obviously crazy as well.
Now, E.K. Thompson, a.k.a. Stat Freak, he's been telling me via DM for like the last year that he believes that Brad Stevens is going to get the job. I have told him for 1,000,000 times, Brad Stevens, Stat Freak, is not going back to college. You need to get that out of your mind. Would you agree with this, Aaron Torres?
I would. I think there's a few. Now, the one name that I will say, I don't think it's likely, but I don't think it's impossible either. Billy Donovan is going to get fired this year from the Chicago Bulls. And I will tell you this. I know for a fact that last year, if Kentucky had been willing to wait for another week, because they were in the weird MMBA play-in tournament thing.
Yes.
And Kentucky, I think understandably was like, we can't wait. If you win the play-in or however it works, you're going to be playing another 3 weeks. We can't wait. Mark Pope wants this job. Now, so I bring it up because I think Billy Donovan will listen to college jobs. But I will counter that by saying I don't believe Brad Stevens is in play. Think about Brad Stevens. First of all, he's got a great job. He has none of the stress of coaching, none of the travel. The team, not only is the team rocking and rolling, but I think this is the important part. Like, Tatum and Brown are basically just now entering their prime. Yeah. So they got like a 7-year run where I'm not saying they're the best team, but like I am saying they got some plenty of wiggle room. And I think the other important thing, he's still pretty young. And like, I looked this up, I believe he actually still has like a kid or two in high school. He's only 48 years old. So I think he's got a kid or two that's still in high school. And like, if he had all his kids out of the house, maybe it'd be different, but you have a great job. Nobody, it's not like Billy Donovan that's going to get fired. You're going to give all that up to go to Indiana. And that's assuming that you even want to coach. You're going to pull your kid out of high school and in the middle of their junior year. I don't see that one. I just don't.
Now, there's a rumor going around that Kevin O'Neill might be getting back into the coaching realm. Could you see Kevin O'Neill getting any of those jobs, North Carolina, Texas, or Indiana?
Dude, I saw, was it you or Shear was tweeting about Kevin O'Neill, and I didn't understand the context. I know he's the former Arizona coach amongst many other places, but
we like Kevin O'Neill on this show. Basically, he's a maniac, but I like Kevin O'Neill. Everywhere he's gone, he's been fired and basically run out of town. But I find him an interesting person. I've never seen anybody that could drink, basically have 8 mixed drinks in like 30 minutes and then be like, well, wife's telling me I got to go home. Give you an idea about him, a little bit about how he's, about how off the rocker he is. When he was announced at the press conference for Arizona, he gave out his cell phone number to the entire media. I've never seen that, but it was just awesome. And then basically he spent like his entire year here telling everybody about how crummy Lloyd is as a coach. So probably not the greatest idea.
Was he the one that took, because what was it, 4 coaches in 4 years, right?
Yeah.
I need a history lesson real quick.
Okay, yeah. So this is good. So Lloyd is in failing health. They announced that Kevin O'Neill is in as the chief assistant. They booted Josh Pastner out, and Kevin O'Neill comes in, and he's the head coach in waiting. They had a class coming in with like Brandon Jennings, hoping to get back Jared Bayless, Buttinger, all that. Lloyd ends up going fishtails. I don't know if that's the right term. Whatever. So then Kevin O'Neill takes over a team that's got Chase Buttinger, Jared Bayless, Jordan Hill.
Oh, was he still on an interim basis that year? Or
No,
he
at that
officially
point
took
they
over?
said that he was the coach, the permanent coach, and it became apparent after like 5 minutes that not good. I mean, he's out getting drunk immediately after games and all that stuff. He's a fun drunk though, yeah, or fun drinker. So there's that. So then they get rid of Kevin O'Neill. Probably should owe him a lot of money because they did promise a bunch of stuff they went back on. Then Russ Pennell takes over. The Russ Pennell takes over, gets Arizona to the Sweet 16. Then he's out. And then I think he took the GCU job. And then that's when Sean Miller came in. But little history lesson for you that you might know about this. John Calipari had agreed to become the next Arizona basketball head coach.
What? I did not know that.
And if you ask John Calipari, I'm sure that you know people that can, get in touch with Calipari. Heck, you might be able to get in touch with him. He will confirm this for you, which would have been crazy because then he would have brought John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, and all those. But he was also the one when Sean Miller initially declined the job that he said, you got to take that job. That's a better job than Xavier. And so, yeah, a little history lesson for Mr. Torres right there.
I did not know that. I do know this is kind of a fun, fork in the road college basketball moment. He was pretty far down the road with NC State for like one off season. And it was like when Duke and UNC were both at the peak of their powers. And it was also at the time when it was like, oh, Calipari has baggage. I don't think you can hire him at a high major job. And then it was like, so NC State was kind of that we kind of know who NC State is in the pecking order. Is like, we'll take the chance, whatever. And I think at the last minute he turned it down. So he got the job the same time. So he got the Kentucky job the same year as Sean Miller, right?
Yes, he did. Yes,
so
he did.
He told Sean Miller to take it.
Yep.
But also
Sean Miller initially declined the job. And he's good buddies. He's good buddies with John Calipari. And
yeah, he is. I know that.
And John Calipari told him, he's like, "You're a dummy. You got to take that job." And he came back and he took the job. And within a year or 2 years, he was bringing in top 3 recruiting classes. But yeah, like I said, ask the people around Calipari. Little nifty fact for Aaron Torres. But yeah, it was done though. It was done. He was coming to Arizona before Kentucky opened up.
I had no idea. By the way, so Russ Pennell, was he fired? How does that work?
Nah, he was clearly the guy. He and his dad, it was basically he and his dad coaching the team. He brought in his dad, Dewey Pennell, and they did a nice job here. Dewey Pennell, no, it really was it. And then he was let go. Because he wasn't going to be your long-term coach. And then they went for a coaching search. They got turned down by like 4 different people that all sucked too. And then they lucked into Sean Miller, like Jim Boylan, Tim Floyd. Who else? It was a bunch of D-listers, and then they got Sean Miller. So that was cool. But if Billy Gillespie wasn't out like drinking with frat kids, John Calipari, you might have even liked Arizona more than you already do because Calipari would have been here.
I'll tell you what, Calipari definitely moves the needle. I will tell you that. I mean, he's basically him and Hurley, Dan, not Bob.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what, especially when things go bad. Oh my goodness, people cannot get enough of the content. So it's kind of incredible.
Oh, it's great.
Dude, I had one more question about that. I forget what it was. Trying to think here. Something about Calipari, Sean Miller. Can't really remember. So
Rick Pitino and John Calipari being best friends.
Ooh, that's it.
I'm team Pitino on that one. Sorry, I'm gonna get comments in there. I like Pitino.
Pitino's the better coach, no doubt. It is kind of crazy though that competing with Calipari basically turned him into like a violent, wild cheater. Like basically like 7 different scandals because he's like, well, shit, man, excuse my language. Like, well, crap.
No, they're obsessed with each other. They both. It's great though. It's like that northeastern Italian. It's great.
I can tell you, growing up in Connecticut, there is very much like you're either with us or against us, and once you're out of the family, you're out for good.
Yeah.
And what was I going to say?
You know what's funny when you look at their backgrounds? Everywhere Calipari went, all that stuff was stripped from him, and then pardon the pun, strip. And then Rick Pitino has had his fair share of that too. Yeah.
Well, and it just speaks to especially now. If you can get a good coach, I don't care what happened 5-6 years ago. It's like, Will Wade's going to get some monster job this year and he's going to be great.
As he should.
He's probably the last one, right? Like I mean, Hugh Freeze got another job. Sean Miller, if you want to accuse him or whatever, he got another job.
The guy that was accused of strangling his wife got another job, or his
Chris Beard.
girlfriend. Yeah, and like in no time flat. So,
but I think that's a perfect example. Listen, I don't condone what he's accused of, obviously.
Right.
But I think Ole Miss was really the first one. They were like, listen, and I think they were really smart about it. They were like, we're Ole freaking Miss. Nobody cares.
Yeah. Right.
We can get one of probably the 5 best coaches in the sport.
Right.
We're going to take one bad day of publicity because you know how the internet works. Everyone's on to the next thing.
Start winning and nobody cares.
Yes. And so it's just, they were like, we're going to take one bad day of PR and then nobody's going to care for 6 months. And then we're going to be awesome. So even if it becomes a thing, and it hasn't become a thing. So, and by the way, top 25 team just beat Kentucky. They're probably going to get a 5-6 seed in the tournament. It's like, it's no brainer. So
no, now Stat Freak, a little EK Thompson, a little bit better take than the previous one about coaches that might go somewhere that they won. Will Wade to Texas if Rodney Terry gets fired? Will Wade at Texas would kill it.
Oh, he'd kill. Dude, he'd kill.
Can you imagine Will Wade at Texas where you can cheat for free? And
you probably have more money than it. I mean, listen, I'm kind of out of football mode now.
Yeah, I am too.
But I think there was a 5-star that was committed to, because yesterday was technically the second national signing day, and it was committed to Georgia for like a year, never signed. Right. He's from Georgia, flips to Texas yesterday, and one of the big football recruiting writers, I think it was Chad Simmons, they were like, "What was the difference?" And direct quote was, I don't know how to put it any other way. It was NIL related. And it's like, they got so much money, they don't know what to do with. But I'll say this, I'm a Wade defender. He's actually a great coach. I shared a video yesterday that, the team was kind of beat up, and he walks in, he's like, you guys are talking all this shit about who's better than who and who's, and he's like, practice is off. We're going to settle this. And they went and played a video game tournament that day instead of practicing. And so it's like, I just bring it up because it's like, I think he kind of gets that new age. Like, I can be hard, I can be hard on you when I need to be, but there are times where I got to let my foot off the gas a little bit. And so I hadn't even thought about Texas, but anyway, I'll shut up. I'll stop.
Where can they find you doing all your good work, Aaron Torres? We very much like Aaron Torres on this show.
I appreciate you. Aaron_Torres on Twitter. We got our Torres on Arizona account. By the way, we have an intern that runs that. Her name's Mary. She does such a great job. I just want to give her a quick shout out. Like, she'll go through my podcast like the next day and be like, did Aaron talk about Arizona at all? And then clip off segments. I don't have to ask her. She's amazing. She's a U of A student. So shout out to Mary. By the way, Mike, I don't know who your producer is. Maybe you can cut that clip
Cody
out.
James Martin. He's amazing. Yes.
Okay, well, tell Cody James Martin I need that little 10-second clip where I give her a quick shout out because she's been unbelievable for me. I host the Aaron Torres pod 4 days a week. We usually go live on Sunday. I think this Sunday there might be some other priorities. So yeah, Aaron Torres pod, same platforms that you guys are on, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. We go live there. And by the way, I appreciate your help. My YouTube is great, but you and I had a big sit down when you were wearing sweatpants and a Biggie t-shirt. About how we could make my YouTube better, and it's really thrived probably the last 6 months. So I appreciate
you're the man. You're the man, dude. We're lucky to claim you here in Tucson.
Thank you. And by the way, they said nice things about the Torres on Arizona account. I do chime in every now and again, but I want to make sure to give Mary credit because she does a great job. Also, the other place you can find me is the place you can find Mike Luke next week. Let's get you on my show at some point because you're awesome. I'd love to talk some Big 12. Do you guys go live? I know this is kind of a special show. Do you go live the same time every day, or is it all depend?
At 10:30, but if you want me on the show, we can move it around. I got you for that. Yeah,
because we usually go live a little bit. 10:30. So you guys are Mountain Time right now?
Yeah. So we're what time are you right now? 1:40.
Yeah, it's 1:40 right now.
We're 2:40 here. So yeah, you let me know, and we can move it around if need be to get me on with Torres.
Okay, yeah, we'll talk some Big 12 next week. What is your guys' schedule after Texas Tech? So you have at Kansas State. What day is that?
Yeah, we got at Kansas State. That's Monday or Tuesday. I don't know. Let me look.
2/11. What is that? That's Tuesday, I think.
Yeah, let me look here. Yeah. All right, hold on.
Maybe Wednesday, maybe Thursday, because we can preview the Arizona-Houston game.
Yeah, perfect. Let's do it.
Oh, that's at McHale.
That's at McHale, my friend. That's at McHale. Hopefully, we're talking about 11-1 team. Woohoo!
You guys think you'll make the Final Four this year? I need to hang out with you guys again.
Yeah, I would love to, man. It's just, here's the thing. It's so weird and it's so annoying because other fan bases are always like, especially these Illinois pusses, they're always like, oh, you haven't made the Final Four in 24 years. Generally, yes, that's technically true.
When's the
But
last time
there's
they made it? Like 18
yeah,
years ago.
yeah, and they suck. Yeah, and they've made one Sweet 16 in 19 years. So that the problem though with Arizona, it's kind of a it's not really accurate, even though it technically is. You've got 5 Elite Eights in there with the average margin of loss of 2.6 points. Just incredibly bad luck, and I believe 9 top 10 finishes in that time. So it's tortured fan base in that regard, but they've obviously been really, really good. So
I've told you a million times, I was at one of those Elite Eight because that was my when people would criticize Sean, I'd be like, I don't have to defend him. He doesn't need my help. But it's like, oh, he chokes in the tournament. It's like, what do you make? 4 Elite Eights at Arizona? 3 or 4?
3 Elite Eights and one at Xavier too. And the average margin of loss again was like 1 point.
Well,
I mean,
I was at the 2014 Wisconsin game in Anaheim, and it was what was it? A 1 point? It was 1 point. Yeah.
And they shot, and again, Wisconsin, I'm sorry, if a team's going 18 of 22 from 3-point range, I don't know what to say, man. It just tough break.
And Kemba too, of course. That was another one.
Yeah, oh yeah, that one was tough. Yeah, we let you guys win that national championship, Torres. That's what we do around here.
Last thing. We didn't even talk. I know you probably got stuff to do. We didn't talk even about Arizona UConn home and home. I'm excited.
Let's do it right now. We got a couple minutes. Arizona UConn. We're getting you to confirm on the show right now that you will be at that game. This is true.
2027, so that would be winter of 20 or fall of 26, winter of 27, because the first game's in Stores.
Talk with the missus.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She loves Tucson. I mean,
well, I was going to say, yeah, you got to come down here.
Are you going to Stores? Do you think yet, or
next is that game's next year? You know what? I might go to Stores. We'll see. If I can get Sheer to go to Stores with me, I'll go to Stores.
I'll tell you, if it's on campus in Stores, you got to go. UConn plays, splits its home games downtown Hartford. Kind of a trip you could miss. Fun fact: I texted this to you. They apparently had a home and home that I forgot about, but they played in Hartford. I happened to be back in Connecticut seeing family, and I went to an Arizona UConn game in like 2017 or 2018. Brandon Williams was on the team. That's all I remember. So.
Oh, interesting. All right. Well,
I forgot that they played that home and home. So
that's how we roll around here. You can room with me if you come to Stores. Okay, Stat Freak, you got it. You live in Stores, Stat Freak, or that's EK Thompson, but that's his name on the board. We'll talk. All right, Torres. Let's all right, we're gonna shut this one down. Got to 170 lives. You guys are great. We will be back with you tomorrow. We got Brian Hansen coming on, Arizona color commentator, which will be very fun. Big boats here today. All right, so Torres, very much appreciate you. Cody James Martin behind the scenes. Everybody in there, you guys are great. We will be back with you tomorrow. TTFN, ta-ta for now. Thanks for listening to the AZ12 podcast.